Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome back to the second episode ever of Tachy Talks. Today, we're focusing a little bit more on our pre-med friends and we're going to be talking about the MCAT because it is MCAT season. So if you're writing MCAT this year or next year or you just want to know a little bit more about it, we're going to be talking about how to do well on it, our little study tips and tricks, some resources, our experiences. So stick around to hear all about the MCAT. Before we jump right into it, we want to say thanks to everybody for how much you loved our first podcast. You all followed us on Instagram. You DM'd us. We really were expecting it to kind of blow up like it did. And we were so excited about it that Kylie and I went out and got proper microphones. So if I sound a lot better this week and Kylie sounds a lot better this week, that's why. And keep an eye out because I have a feeling my music career is going to be just skyrocketing pretty soon, really taking off.
You know what someone told me? They said, you can finally become Britney Spears now. And I said, yes.
Yeah, this is it. This is my opportunity.
They got their microphones and I got my actual webcam. So now I can start my makeup tutorials. So make sure you follow our second YouTube channel, Advait Makeups. So,
Makeup by Advait?
Makeup by Advait.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you didn't see us all over social media, you haven't followed us yet, you can pause the podcast and go do that right now so you can keep up with everything.
Smash
Tachy Talks.
Smash the like button.
Smash that like button. We're Tachy Talks on all social media. So Instagram, we're at Tachy Talks. Twitter, at Tachy Talks. Our Gmail is tachytalks@gmail.com. Facebook, we're Tachy Talks. So just Tachy Talks everywhere. And if you're on YouTube right now, we'll have that all linked below. And if you're on Spotify, just go and type in Tachy Talks anywhere and we'll pop up. But make sure that you're following us because we do put out little polls and questions and stuff so you can ask us questions in advance of each episode because we want to make this as focused around you guys as we can. So yeah, go check that out. And I think we're ready to go. Kylie?
Before we get started, just like last week, we want to remind you that we do not represent our institution. We're not medical experts, and especially for this week, we are not MCAT experts. Everything we're talking about is our experiences only. What we think worked, what we think didn't, or what we think did not work. Sorry, I can't use my words. And with that, the advice that we give you is purely just advice. We don't guarantee you any score. We're not affiliated with the AAMC at all. This is all just advice. So please do not come after us if you don't do good, but I'm sure you're going to do great.
So yeah, just going off from there, let's actually... why do we keep saying let's jump into it? We got to find another way to say it, but let's...
I implanted it into your... So before we started this, we were talking about what we were going to talk about, and I was like, make sure you say okay, let's jump into it. Because I've been watching a lot of Chloe Ting workouts. I don't know if you guys know that. Chloe Ting home workouts. Highly recommend. And that's what she says before every workout. She goes, let's jump into it. So I've just implanted it into everybody's brain, and now we're never going to stop.
That's how you know you actually started a YouTube channel. We say, let's just jump into it or smash that like and subscribe.
Smash that, let's subscribe.
I guess we're official now. But,
I have Hailey on an Apple Watch and I always get all her notifications. And ever since she started those Chloe Ting workouts, those calories are going up.
I know, 300 calories of workout. I'm getting ripped.
We're getting the quarantine shred. Is that what you call it? Is that what the kids are calling it?
Yeah, I don't know. Shred. I'll go on TikTok and look it up.
Okay. Tell me what you find.
But yeah, this episode is all going to be about everyone's favorite exam, the MCAT, the medical college admissions test. I'm assuming a lot of you out there know what the MCAT is because it's a huge requirement for most med schools in America and Canada. But if you're not sure, it's a 7.5 hour long test where they test 4 different sections. It's essentially biology, chemistry, physics, critical analysis and reasoning skills, which is CARS, and then a lot of psychology and sociology. The test overall is scored between 472 to 528, and the 4 sections are broken down to 118 to 132. This test still gives me nightmares. I hate it.
Really? I thought it was the 7.5 best hours of my life.
No, this test was just
weird.
I actually don't remember it. I blocked the entire experience out.
I'm like, my entire summer was gone just prepping for this test. And even after that, I still think like, oh no. I had dreams after my test was done about like missing my time slot, like driving late to the testing center. Like I had actual nightmares like
I
that.
walked out of the exam and I said to my dad who picked me up from the testing center, I was like, well, really need to start thinking about what I'm going to do after university because I'm definitely not going to medical school now because I definitely just failed that and I'm like, I can't do it. But you know what?
You're here.
Obviously for all of us, it turned out fine. So we're making it sound a
It's
lot
done.
worse than it is. You can all do it.
But yeah, you guys aren't here to learn about the test. You're here to learn to actually, learn how to succeed in the test. So Kylie, I guess you want to start off with that a little bit?
I know the main thing that many people who are listening to the podcast today want to know is how you should study for the MCAT. And there's a lot of different topics. The first one that's a really hot topic is prep companies. So for anyone who's listening, maybe who hasn't heard of a prep company yet, there's a bunch of different ones that you can choose from. And they all have different, I guess, setups for like the structure of their courses. The one that I took was an in-class one, and I had to go to one of the universities around here every week. And I think it was 10 weeks. Hailey, how long do you remember was yours?
So I actually did like a self-directed online one. So I had no in-class components. So I could take however long I wanted.
That might be the reason why you really liked your prep company and I didn't really like the experience that much. It was a lot of in-class learning, and every day it would be, we'd switch between like one day would be bio, one day would be chemistry and physics, another day would be cars, and then the psych-soc part was actually online. But what they basically teach you all the content that you need to know for the MCAT. And then with that, they'll tell you their strategies. One really big thing about the MCAT that I personally find is that it's not so much about what you know. It's definitely important to know all the content, but it's a lot about your strategy and how you go about things. So it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of comprehension, and it's not just like that in cars. What do you guys think?
The way they ask questions is so weird. Like I always heard that it's not about the content, it's about learning how to answer the questions, which I thought was very, very true. And my prep company actually had like an entire strategy of how to tackle the questions. And I really, like, it clicked with me, which it may not click with everybody, but it clicked with me. And I used it the whole way through and I thought it was like really great.
Yeah, for sure. Advait, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't use a prep company, which I guess I'll talk about that later. But I guess one theme that pretty much if you ask anyone about the MCAT, what they're going to tell you is practice is the most important. So it is a lot about how you're going to be tackling the questions, being able to understand what are the key points in the paragraph or the question that you really have to understand. And that can help you just answer every question if you could just find those key points.
For sure. And with prep companies, I think a big thing is knowing how you study. So one big piece of advice I have for the MCAT is do not write it until you are ready. It's not, speaking from someone who has wrote it 3 times, it's not worth it to stress over it for 3 summers. I wish I could have at least 2 of those summers of my life back. And it depends. It really honestly depends what kind of study you are. Some people really, really like sitting in class. I personally don't. I like to do things more on my own and I like a self-directed learning style. But for other people, that's probably the best thing ever and it keeps them on track. It gives them a schedule and that it really is up to you to decide if that's something that you like. If they're worth it, again, it's kind of up to the person to decide. If you want more opinions on our prep companies, send us a DM. If you want to know how I felt about it or how Hailey felt about it, you can just ask for us. Both of us are looking at the Instagram account, so both of us will answer and give you our unbiased opinions. But again, it's up to the person to decide.
Hey, don't leave me out. If you want to ask about what it's like
sorry.
not studying with a test prep company, you can hit us up too and I'll answer that.
If you want to know all 3, just let us know. We'll all take turns answering.
If you really want to talk to all of us, we'd all love to talk to you. But with the prep companies, one thing I think is so important is you need the books. Like the books are so important. Each of the prep companies puts their books. I got all mine from Indigo. Where did you guys get yours? Amazon, Indigo?
I got mine as part of like the package. So I paid for the self-directed course and they sent me the books.
Mine was actually just secondhand. One of my friends wrote the MCAT before and then he didn't want them anymore. So I just kind of grabbed it off of him.
That's the other thing is don't get caught up thinking that you need like the 2020 version. They're all the same. Like
All of them.
there was one year that they switched the MCAT, and obviously those 2 years would not be the same. But like because the MCAT doesn't change really from year to year, all of the content within the books is the same. So if you get a 2019 or a 2018 version, like it's going to be fine, and it's probably going to be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, they switched the MCAT in 2015, I think. And for my best MCAT score, I used the 2015 books. So you do not need the most recent books. And that most recent MCAT was in 2018. So again, how much can biology change in 3 years? It can't. But yeah, just like a few companies. So if you like are interested in looking at it, some of the ones you can look for in the store, they have like Princeton, Kaplan, Exam Crackers. All of them have different pros and cons to them.
Yeah, I guess Princeton is known for being very thorough. So if you're not really comfortable with the basic sciences and maybe your major was not in a typical pre-med program like biology or biochem or something, you might want to grab a Princeton review book because they do go in depth with a lot of the information. While on the other hand, Exam Crackers is known for just being like assuming that you have the basic knowledge and just kind of sharing with you what important points you need to know for the MCAT. And Kaplan's known to be in the middle a little bit.
Did you guys, when you were writing it, did you hear that Exam Crackers was the best cars?
A lot of people did tell me that Exam Crackers was the best cars. However, I didn't use it myself.
I didn't know Exam Crackers existed. I only knew about Princeton and Kaplan. I was probably the most uninformed person going into the MCAT.
I mean, that's
the Reddit.
That's the whole
Hailey's
point.
Hailey's not
though.
on Reddit.
She's not on Reddit. We'll talk about that.
Embarrassing confession. I don't know how Reddit works, but we're gonna get to that.
We're gonna talk about the MCAT subreddit. Yeah,
is really important to remember when you're looking at prep companies is that like they're expensive, and there's no getting around that. That programs are expensive, in class is expensive, but I like my experience with my prep company and my self-directed learning was really good, and I honestly credit my MCAT score to that program. So I think it's important to think about it as you're investing in your future, because you have to write the exam, unfortunately, as much as it sucks, and we'll talk about that too. There's no getting around it. I used my OSAT money to pay for the self-directed learning, and I would do it again. You're investing in yourself. But if you can't afford that, which is a very real thing for some people, there are lots of online resources that you just need to look that up. And it's totally possible to succeed not using the prep company as well. It's all about knowing yourself and knowing what you have to work with, kind of thing.
Actually, just talking about online resources, one resource that is free at the moment is Khan Academy. And Khan Academy has worked with the AAMC. Actually, after you finish writing the MCAT, they ask you, have you used Khan Academy? So that just kind of tells you that they work very closely with AAMC, and all the material that Khan Academy has about the MCAT on their website is, it pretty much just covers everything that the MCAT covers as well. The only thing is that Khan Academy is only free until September 30th, 2021. And after that, I think it's going to be put behind a paywall on the AAMC site. So use it while you have the chance.
Sad. Khan Academy, I use Khan Academy. It is legit. Just based on what Hailey was saying too about the price for prep companies, a lot of the prep companies do have a score guarantee. So if one of the companies I was just looking at had a 510 plus guarantee. So if you don't hit that score or improve by 10 points, they have some kind of refund program. So that's something to keep in mind also. But also what Hailey said too, like, don't let the price be a barrier to you. That's one thing that we all really wanted to focus on this podcast, is to show people that some different ways to overcome barriers to medicine. Don't let it intimidate you. If you can't afford a prep company, there are so many different routes and paths that you can take that'll get you to that 528 score that everyone has their eyes on. And with Khan Academy, that also brings up, I know we mentioned the Reddit before, but this is my biggest MCAT secret. The Khan Academy psych book that is floating around on the MCAT Reddit is the best resource for psych that you can find out there. I am not kidding. I read the site, like I got really, okay, I'm going to tell you about my MCAT experience. So my first summer I wrote the MCAT, that was self-studied. Bad. We'll go back into that later. The second summer I wrote it is when I did the prep course. And then the third year I wrote it is when I did the self-study on my own again. I only used this psych book for my third third time around. So there was some stuff in this brain. It was the best thing. Like I got the best score on psych and all I had to do was read it once. It is my biggest MCAT secret. Use it.
Yeah, it's if you go on the MCAT subreddit, so just go to reddit.com/r/MCAT. If you're on your computer, you can go to the sidebar where there's going to be a bunch of links for resources there. And yeah, just go through everything on the sidebar, read the rules for the subreddit, and you'll probably find the psychology document that she's talking about there. You'll also find pre-made Anki cards there as well that people have made. And actually, let's talk about Anki for a second. Have either of you used Anki?
Spaced repetition, baby.
Yeah,
Anki. I've used Anki.
Used Anki?
Anki, if you're not using Anki right now, you need to start.
Anki, okay, listen. Anki will get you
Anki's
through.
controversial.
Anki will get you through the
Really?
MCAT, and it will get you through med school. So you
Okay,
might as well
I've heard
just-
controversial opinions on Anki.
What do you mean?
Like
What?
I've heard some people who love it. There's a few people in our class who are like obsessed with it, and then other people are like not huge fans of it. But everywhere I go on the internet, people love Anki. But like, I can't get into Anki, but I've used
You
it.
can't?
I can't get into it.
I guess if you're not like a cue card learner, so if you don't have Anki, basically the entire point is spaced repetition. So what happens is you see a cue card that you've either written or you've downloaded a pre-made deck. I like to write them because that's part of my study process, but I know like Advait, you just use pre-made decks and that works for you,
Mhm,
right?
Yeah.
But you see a cue card and it gives you a prompt and you answer it and then you look at the answer and you have 3 scoring options. So you can either say that you didn't know it, in which case it will show it to you again in 10 minutes or a minute. It'll show it to you again in a short period of time. You can say it was good and it will show it to you in a day. Or you could say that like you knew it hands down and it will show it to you again in 3 days. And then every day you go back and you have like a different stack of cue cards depending on which day they got sorted into. And the idea is that things that you don't know, you see them more often. So, and then the things that you do know, you don't need to focus on that as much. So you see them less often. And eventually the point is to get all of your cue cards into the like, I know this hands down deck. But it's like a proven method, I guess, to stick everything in your brain. And it's good for very content heavy courses, which is all of medicine. So, I
All of
mean, I think
medicine.
it's really good. It's all of medicine. I like to, like, there are some things where I have to sit down and like learn conceptually what it is, and Anki doesn't work for that. But a lot of it is like memorizing drug names or like different symptoms of conditions. That's all just content. And spaced repetition really gets it stuck in your brain if that's your thing.
Yeah, like Anki's not going to help you learn how to solve a physics problem. It'll help you memorize the formula. But in order to actually learn how to do the problems, you have to do practice. But for things like biology or anatomy or just psychology terms, things like that, Anki is great for memorizing definitions.
See, I think the thing with Anki though is that it's really important. Like I was talking about this with someone in our class too. Like it's so important to start early. You
Mhm.
can't
Yeah.
start it like the week before.
No.
And I'm a big writer. Like I like to write everything down. So like I take all my notes on my iPad and it's just like writing the same thing over and over and over again. And by the time I'm like, okay, I'm ready for Anki. It's only a week before, and Anki is something you need to start at like the beginning of the semester. So
Yeah.
that's a big tip. Or with the MCAT, right when you start is when it's a good time. With that, I know we're on like that our MCAT subreddit. They do have the pre-made Anki decks. And Advait, did you use those? I'm guessing you did.
I used it just for psychology.
Okay.
But I did use, I think it might have been a deck made by Premed 95 might have been the username. So
That is the one that I was using too.
yeah, I'm not like, I would
I don't
recommend.
know how Reddit works, so I didn't use that.
Okay, this girl, oh my God.
Haley, you need to get on Reddit. Okay, everyone, send a DM on Tachy Talks too and tell Advait to get an Instagram.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
2020.
Okay, listen, I'll get an Instagram and Haley's going to get on Reddit.
I don't understand how it works.
I'll teach you.
Okay.
I will.
Okay.
I can also teach you. Advait and I will
Um,
tag team you.
I'm exposing myself right now. But Advait, you're using a pre-made deck to study right now, aren't you?
Yeah, but exactly. Like I was saying, it's used a lot in med school as well. There are a lot of pre-made decks out there. And like when you're studying for like step 1 or step 2, there's a lot of pre-made decks out there. I'm currently just going over some of those to kind of review during the summer, give myself something to do just so I don't forget all my content.
What a nerd.
Hey, listen,
You're such a good student. Haley, we need to follow in his lead.
I think we have enough on our plate, honestly.
Yeah, I'm a little busy right now. You and I
Okay.
are. Hailey and I are the same person, by the way. We run on the exact same schedule.
We do everything the same.
But yeah, if you learn to use Anki, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I think everyone should at least give it a shot.
I totally agree. You should definitely try it. I'm actually going to use it more this year. Advait and Hailey, if you can keep me
So
in line.
what's going to happen is they're going to teach me how to use Instagram. We're going to teach Hailey how to use Reddit. And then Hailey and I are going to teach Kylie how to use Anki. It's perfect.
I think she knows how. It's more of a fact that you and I are going to sit Kylie down and force her to go through her Anki decks.
Force her, yeah.
I love this. That means we get to hang out, though.
Yeah. And that means we won't get anything done because like we mentioned last time, when you get Advait in a small group room, he never, ever, 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 ever stops talking.
Just kidding. We love you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
But okay, Anki, I love it, but it's not gonna get you your amazing scores just doing Anki. What's gonna get you your scores is gonna be practice, like Allen Iverson says.
Practice.
Like Allen Iverson.
Makes perfect.
It's all about practice. You don't know Allen Iverson?
Yeah, I was gonna say, who is that?
Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm not even gonna answer that.
Okay,
I'm not gonna answer.
I'd be embarrassed right now. I'm a little
Google
late.
it and DM me the answer.
Allen Iverson? Come on,
Hailey
guys.
Gerton.
We're here talking about practice, not the game.
What?
No?
Anyways, so practice is definitely one of the most important things you can do. Like we were saying, the MCAT is a lot about learning how to answer the questions, and really the only way you can do that is by practicing them. So you can get a lot of practice tests and practice questions. So the course that I did with my prep company, I got 8 full-length tests. I got section tests, and then I had a bank of multiple choice questions to work through. So my study schedule, and I'll talk about it more later, I actually did a full length every week, which I think was super, super important. UWorld is another good resource. I think you have to buy a subscription, but some people split the subscription if you're like both writing at different times or something. So that's something to look into. They have really good questions, but the most important thing about UWorld, I think, is that they have fantastic explanations when you get it wrong, like with illustrations and everything. And then the other very important material, if you can get your hands on it, is AAMC stuff. So these are the people who actually write the MCAT, and you can get practice tests from them, like full lengths. And I think you can also get section tests from them.
Section banks and QPACs, yeah.
And QPACs, yeah. And so those are going to be most similar to the MCAT. But I think what we like kind of agreed on is that it's best to save those for near the end. So work through all your other resources and then save that for when you're like approaching your test date.
Personally, I think in terms of priority of the most important material, it's the AAMC practice tests, which are the most important because those are practice tests actually made by the company administering your MCAT, right? So you want to save those for the end or close to the end. And then the second most important are the AAMC section banks. And lastly, the QPACs.
Also,
if you're going to spend money, the AAMC is the most important ones to spend money on.
The other thing to keep in mind is that like the prep company tests and even the AAMC tests aren't always an accurate reflection of the score you're going to get. So don't let that discourage you, because I scored 7 points higher than I ever scored on a practice test.
Really?
Like my prep company was lowballing me so hard, and I started reading on different like sites and stuff that my particular prep company had hard full lengths, like they were harder than the test, which I guess is a good thing. But it was really discouraging. I was like, I'm not gonna do well. And then I ended up scoring 7 points higher than I ever scored on a practice exam. So I mean, it's good to challenge yourself in that way, but don't let it discourage you.
I was just looking online just in case anyone's interested, because the AAMC material is like the closest I think you'll get to like what the actual MCAT is. And if you're interested, the complete bundle is $294. I'm pretty sure this is in US dollars though.
Yeah, it's US dollars.
Everything MCAT is US dollars.
But it includes 15 of the current MCAT products at a significant discount over ordering each separately, includes over 2,400 unique questions from across the online products. Plus you get their printed book, and they also come with flashcards. So could be useful. Actually, I did buy them. I had the flashcards and I had the official book. But that kind of gives you an idea for the price. And that, in my opinion, the most worth it. That's important.
Mm-hmm. So, in terms of practice, do you guys know like how many practice tests should you write? Do you have any like thought about that
So
or anything?
I overstudied, and I'll talk about that later, but I wrote in the end 6 of my test companies practice full lengths and 2 of the AMC practice full length. So I wrote 8 practice tests before my exam, which was like 4 too many.
You think
I
that was
also
too
wrote,
many?
Maybe
Yeah.
not. How many did you write?
I think I wrote like 10 to 12 practice tests.
What? A
Yeah.
full length? That's an 8.5-hour test.
Yeah, I would do like one a week ever since I started studying. I wouldn't be done my content, but I would still do like one practice test a week.
See, okay, I'm crazy and I couldn't start doing practice tests until I finished all of my content because I am crazy. It just didn't
because
sit right
I am
with me.
crazy.
It didn't sit right with me. So that's probably why. But I also spent 6 months studying, which was
Yeah,
way too long.
That's a long time. I did something similar to Advait. I wrote 10 as well. And I did one every week because it's like what we were saying. It was so important to get like an idea for the questions and like the feeling of the test and best time of day to write it and when you should eat your snacks and what kind of snacks you should eat. I had it down to a science.
Actually, I did read one Reddit thread about what snacks you should pack. Out of all the things I could have read on Reddit, that is what I read about. And I ended up packing like peanuts, which was, what if somebody in my test center was allergic? That was not very nice of me.
Actually, let's talk about that. Is there something that you should be snacking on specifically or what?
No, okay. I'm a big supporter of that you should just eat whatever you eat in a normal day, because if you don't, your stomach is going to hurt. So if you wake up every morning and you drink a black coffee and then around noon you snack on some dry cereal, like you got to do that for your test day. It's all about routine.
The one trick that I saw that I really, really liked, I actually thought it was kind of cute, was that you should buy your favorite chocolate bar.
I did that.
And yeah, that's exactly what I did too. And you have it during your last 10-minute break so that you get like that kind of like that sugar rush for the last section. Because let me tell you, by the time Psych and Soch comes around, you were like, oh my God, I have never been this tired in my life, yet I need to pull it together. So when you're looking forward to that chocolate bar all day, you're like, yes, yes, yes. And I also, my favorite chocolate bar is Crispy Crunch. So I also brought peanuts to my test center, but
Oops.
Yeah, I had a
We're bad
Snickers
people.
because like you're not you when you're hungry, and I wanted to be me when I'm writing my
Aw,
test. So,
stop. You're so
Cute.
funny.
but actually, it's just because I like Snickers. That's not the real reason.
But don't let people freak you out and be like, you need to eat a complex carb at this time and then protein at this. And it's like, calm down. What you snack on isn't going to make or break. Like just pack whatever you want to pack for your lunch. But definitely eat something because your brain doesn't work well on no food. So, I mean, like get some calories in there so that your brain can get some glucose and function.
While we're talking about schedule too, another schedule that it's very, very important to adhere to, and this is not a joke, is your bathroom schedule. Like,
Yes.
go this.
Not enough people talk about this.
Yes.
You need to get your bathroom schedule on point.
Yeah, you do. And, you know, okay, everyone who's listening to this wants to be doctors, so bodily functions should not disgust you. So I'm going to get a little TMI. This is so bad. I'm such a firm believer and you need to get all your schedules down pat, because during that first section of the MCAT, the second time I wrote it, this is why I think I had to rewrite it. I had to go to the washroom so badly that I couldn't focus. And my psych and chem section like went out the window because all I could think about was going to the washroom. And this has happened to people with their PCAT. And he's going to kill me for telling this story. Okay.
Is this Nick? Oh my God, I love it. This is Kylie's boyfriend. He's going to be a pharmacist.
Oh my God, he's going to kill me when he listens to this. But I felt so bad for him. He was writing the PCAT and he had to go to the washroom so badly. And it was to the point he was like telling me he was shaking. And so he like asked for a break and he left, didn't realize that the test was still going, lost like 8 minutes of his test, had to like guess the last few sections, threw him off for the next one because he was all like razzed because he had lost all that time on that section. And he ended up having to rewrite the PCAT. I felt so bad for him, but he did really good the next time around. He got like 99th percentile.
That's
so
the thing is like,
he's doing good.
you can go on a bathroom break, but your test can be, like, the time continues to go. So if coffee really makes you need to pee, probably don't load up on coffee before you walk in there.
Or if you need to poop, if coffee makes you poop, own it, know it, and
You,
go to the washroom before.
like,
There
you
are
gotta get
scheduled
that.
breaks though. Like there are scheduled
Yeah.
breaks after each section. So if you can kind of time it, I think that's what they're trying to say. If you can just time your restroom breaks for that, like you'll be Gucci. But that's one thing.
And then the other schedule that you should really keep on track while you're studying is your sleep schedule. So I know during the summer it's kind of tempting to become a nocturnal animal and stay up until 4 a.m. and then sleep until 1 p.m., which is totally cool, except for that's not the schedule that the MCAT runs on. It starts at, like, what, 8 a.m.?
Yeah.
Actually, it's different during COVID right now.
We'll talk about that in
We'll
a
talk
bit.
about that later.
Yeah.
But
Usually it
But it's
starts
even
at
worse
8 a.m., I
now.
believe. So if you need to be used to waking up at that time, I actually started 3 weeks before, waking up at 6:30 every day and then going to bed at a reasonable time because I wanted to have time in the morning to, like, eat and wash my hair and whatever. So if you are not used to waking up at that time, your brain's not going to be functioning. So you need to get your sleep schedule on track, and maybe that means not so many late nights playing League, Advait. But
that was pretty
Advait doesn't-
targeted.
Advait has become a
Snapchats at, like,
nocturnal animal.
Yeah. Do you get
Yeah.
like Snapchats at like 5, 6 in the morning?
He's like,
Or-
it's like 5 a.m. and he's like, what a great time to go on a jog. And I'm like, I know you have not gone to bed yet. This is like a pre-bedtime jog for you at 5 a.m.
Why are you like this? Go
Okay,
to sleep.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just preparing myself for my on-call shifts in the future. That's the reason.
You're like 2 years too early. Oh, I guess
You're
only a
so
year
funny.
now. We're second years.
We're second
Scary.
years. That's crazy.
I know.
Spooky.
We officially got that email this week that says we're
Uh,
second years now.
I
We
couldn't believe
made
they're
it.
like, if you need remediation, then you have to finish that. And the first thing I did was check if I needed remediation. Like I went through
I
the
had
rest
a
of my
dream after
emails.
they sent that email. I had a dream after they sent that email that I needed to remediate. That, like, I got an email from them and they were like, "You actually failed this section," and I was like,
I
"No,
don't think that was a dream.
I read that I passed," and then they were like, "No, you actually failed this," and I dreamt that I had to remediate.
Those dreams are actually
It
the
was
worst.
a dream. It
Like,
was a dream.
They are the worst.
Dreams where you like miss your exam or like you fail something. Those get you. I remember, I'm going off topic for a sec, but I remember after I got accepted to med school, I had a dream that I was a truck driver and I was driving over the Ambassador Bridge to Detroit. And they were just
The
doing a
Ambassador
routine checkup.
Bridge.
They were just doing a
Our
routine
favorite
checkup.
bridge.
Our favorite,
We
our
love the
toothpaste
Ambassador Bridge.
colored favorite bridge.
It's beautiful.
And like the people at the border were just doing a routine checkup and they found bags of cocaine in my truck. And then I went to jail. And then I was so sad because like I knew med school was going to decline my like acceptance offer.
Sorry, what kind of dream is that?
Dreams aren't supposed to make sense. They just happen. Okay? I remember I was sitting in jail like so sad
Oh my god.
and like so scared about what my parents would say.
I've had a couple of dreams that I had to, like, drop out of school because I was pregnant.
Oh no.
Disclaimer, I've never been pregnant.
Okay.
I don't even, like,
Oh no.
I don't know where
No.
that came from, but it was like, I always have this dream that I'm like, I have to raise a child alone now. So I'm going to have to drop out of medical school. Dreams don't make sense.
No,
I
no,
get-
don't
If
be-
anybody wants to, like, hop in and interpret that for me, slide on into the DMs.
You would never have to raise a child alone, though. That would be a class baby. All of us would be
Oh,
raising
yeah,
that
it would
child
be.
together. They'd
It
have
would be.
38 parents. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
That would be amazing.
It'd be like, we'd make a clerkship schedule. We were in clerkship to figure out, like, who has what nights off and just pass the baby around. That's what we would do.
It's like hot potato.
We would name it like, what would we name it? Like,
Mitochondria.
Mitochondria.
we would name
our
it like
house of our
master
class.
adaptive learner, or like
You and me.
competency-based medical education, CBME. We'd name it CBME.
CBME.
No, you
Feist.
could
We
name
name
it
it
like
Feist.
Christopher. You can name it like Christopher Brian Edward, and its initials would be CB. No, we need an M. No, CPU works.
Christopher Brian Matthew Edwards, CBME for short.
Okay.
I love it.
Let's get back to the MCAT topics.
Okay, wait. Well, we're going back to the MCAT topics. I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
What are your tips to sleep the night before the MCAT? Because I was wired.
Okay, can I make a confession?
Yes, tell us.
I had studied for so long that I had burnt myself out, and I don't recommend this. By the time I got to my MCAT, I did not care at all about how I did because I was just so sick of studying for it that I slept fine. I wasn't even nervous because I was like, I don't even care anymore. Not the best. Don't do that.
Maybe that is a good strategy though, because you slept. I didn't sleep the night before and I was
That's true.
exhausted.
Yeah, no, for me, it's like I don't actually need much sleep in order to function, at least for like
That's
one
nice
day.
for you.
Oh,
Must be
yeah.
nice.
You don't say. You don't say.
No, I think I got like 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and then that was just.
Whoa.
that was good
Wait, can we
enough.
just talk about what Advait would do the night before our exams this year in school? Like, he just wouldn't leave. I'd come back the next morning, go home, get a nice little sleep. He'd be sitting in the cubicle and just eyes wide open.
No, it'd be like he would roll up to lecture the morning of our exam and he'd be like, yeah, I just like headed home for 15 minutes to change my clothes and now I'm back. And I was like, why didn't you just pack them if you were going to do
Yeah.
that?
There's a shower in the building. You could.
Yeah, we do have showers in the building. I find it too gross though. I need a
In
building.
general,
Yeah.
my tips like the night before an exam, I prepare everything. So like I have my breakfast ready to go. I have my outfit picked out. I have my bag packed. And I find that all helps me. And then I lie in bed and I run over my schedule for like getting to the test. I get until I fall asleep. It's like counting. It's me going through my schedule like minute by minute.
Yeah, I think if you're like pretty organized about stuff like that, it helps not just for, like for the MCAT, but just general everyday stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. I like the tips.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to use them this year.
Let's get back to the MCAT topic for a real quick second. So we discussed
Back on track.
we discussed kind of how I guess you should prepare. You should look to get books from some kind of a test prep company, or you could do a test prep course. That's really up to you. And just remember, go through all the books, do a lot of practice. They have a lot of resources out there. Practice tests. So many companies offer practice tests. And the big thing is a lot of them have different ways that they structure their questions, especially cars. It's known that different companies write cars a little bit differently compared to AEMC material. So, try different companies if you can. And yeah, just keep doing practice. But one big thing is you want to make sure that you get decent breaks, because if you're just constantly studying and constantly doing practice tests, you're going to get burnt out. So my whole thing was I would, like whenever I'd write a practice test, I would take the rest of the day off and then review my practice test the next day. Do you guys have any topics for taking breaks or anything like that?
I worked the summer of my MCAT and usually I was a camp counselor during the summers because I really enjoyed that, but I found an office job that I worked 10 until 4 and then I spent my evening studying, and I thought that work was actually a really good way to not overload myself with studying, and it was also a way not to procrastinate because I knew when I got home from work I had to spend the evening studying to get through my stuff. So I actually I know a lot of people prefer not to work, which if that's your thing, totally cool, but I thought it was quite helpful for me personally to work.
I've heard that a few times, that a lot of people have said that working while they study for the MCAT lets them manage their time better and it works out. For me, I think it's so important to take a day off a week. This is a huge test. You're going to be studying. I don't think you need to study for a year in advance, but definitely you're going to be studying for a few months. Most people use their university summers, end up writing in August. That's 3.5, 4 months of studying. You need time off. That one day off is not going to make or break you. Honestly, it's going to make you feel refreshed, go out, get some dinner, do what you like to do. And make sure you have hobbies during the summer too. If you're really into running or playing sports, keep on it up, keep doing it. Mm-hmm. It's so important to keep your life normal during these times. And it's never going to stop. once you get into med school, you have so much work to do all the time, and it's so important to make time for yourself. Make sure you keep working out. I love reading stories on Reddit. One person said that they were lifting the whole summer that they were studying, and they got their like personal best, like what would you call it, like weightlifting. As you can tell, I'm not a lifter. But like it's so important to do things you love. And another tip that I really like that I did as well is take the day off before the MCAT. You're not going to learn anything else that day before.
For sure. You definitely need to take the day off. And then I made sure that I had dinner planned for that night, like plans to go out for dinner so you can't ruminate too much. And then I had plans for the next day as well.
That's smart. I just ate a lot of pasta. Carb loading.
I went to the keg. It was great.
Oh, that's good. See, that's a really good tip. Go for a nice dinner.
And I had like not been going out with my friends or anything during the summer. So I had a drink at dinner, like a cider at dinner. And I like stood up and I was like, oh my God, I'm drunk. And it was like such an experience for me I just like got lit off of one cider after my MCAT, which is like the nerdiest thing that has ever happened to me, but it's fine.
And
the big thing
you
is
probably
after the MCAT.
Yeah, after the MCAT, yes, because I did not spend the summer before the MCAT partying as much as I would have liked to. In Party Peterborough.
No.
They're not even laughing.
No.
They didn't even
like,
enjoy that. Okay.
I like how she brought up Peterborough. Every podcast she's going to bring up Peterborough.
She's going to bring it up once.
Somehow.
I'm going to convince people to move there and they're going to love it.
Become mayor.
Mayor of Peterborough.
Yeah.
I don't think so, Cecil. I think
Wait,
that is all we...
Do you know the mayor of Peterborough's name?
Yeah, Miriam.
I don't even know the mayor of where
Wait, I don't know if she's the mayor. I think she might be like the member of the
She's someone important in Peterborough.
You're
That's
very ingrained in the Peterborough. I love that. You go, girl. Sorry, back to the MCAT.
Yeah, I mean, okay, another big thing is that the MCAT has a lot of controversy to it. Why?
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
One, it's a very expensive test. Like we talked about, test prep companies are super expensive. If you're going to take an entire course from them, they can be over $1,000 sometimes.
US. I paid $1,000 US.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
The MCAT itself is really expensive.
It's like 300 American dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
MCAT itself is expensive. Even if you just buy review books from a company, that can be anywhere from like $100 to $200, usually around like $150-ish. And then if you're trying to do additional practice tests, so if you buy books, usually you'll get a few free practice tests with your books. But if you want additional practice, like the AAMC material that Kylie was talking about before, or if you want to buy external tests from companies like Next Step or UWorld practice questions, once again, you're going to need subscription fees for that. So.
And the other big thing about the MCAT is like, is it even a good indicator of if you're going to be a good doctor or not? I personally, my motto through life is that school is fake. And what I mean by that is that school is structured in a very specific way. And I don't know about you guys, but I have benefited because I learn in the way that school is taught. Like I learn in lecture, I'm a good test taker, but a lot of people aren't. And that doesn't mean that they're not smart. It means that they're not good at sitting through lecture. And if it was recorded or if it was all written or something, they would do better. So the MCAT, like you obviously have to be a good test taker. It's an 8-hour long multiple choice exam. The other thing is it's only written in English. So if English isn't your first language, that's an automatic disadvantage. And then third is maybe you are a really good test taker and you're really good at school, but you can't afford 300 American dollars to write the exam. And then you can't go to medical school at a lot of places in Canada. So a lot of schools actually they're not taking away the MCAT. Ottawa actually does not use the MCAT, and that's because it's not offered in French, and they offer medical school in both English and French. But I think every other school in Canada requires the MCAT to some extent. Do you guys know if that's right?
I believe so.
Yeah. But a lot of them have started
not including,
lowering...
not including Quebec schools, by the way.
Because they're French, obviously. But a lot of schools have started lowering their cutoffs for the end. That's kind of a reflection of the fact that we're learning that a good test score doesn't necessarily equal a good doctor. So if you're not great at taking tests, don't count yourself out right away, or don't say like, I need to do nothing but study. Meet the cutoffs, find out what schools you want to go to, meet the cutoffs for those, and have really great extracurriculars. And I would say at this point, at a lot of schools, not all of them, but at a lot of them, you have just as good of a shot as somebody who did really well in the MCAT but doesn't have very good extracurriculars. It's all about being well-rounded and balanced. And unfortunately, the MCAT's a huge barrier right now. And there is a lot of talk going on Med Twitter. If you're not on Med Twitter, there's a lot of talk going on there about the socioeconomic barriers that are put in place getting into medical school. And like, I totally agree with it. I think that the MCAT was put in place to make sure that a certain person gets into medical school. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it's so unfortunate. Like, there's so many people who would make amazing doctors out there, and like, they can't afford to write the MCAT, or they can't afford to, like, even applying to medical school is really expensive. And you know, I want like to help more people be able to reach it too. So one thing I just Googled, AAMC actually offers a fee assistance program for Canadian examinees. It's not the be all and end all. I'm going to look for some more resources as well, and hopefully we can give that out to people and post that on our Instagram. But there is ways, and there is fee assistance programs, and I will talk about this in later podcasts too, but like, there is a lot of assistance and scholarships and bursaries and grants for medical school itself that you can get to help with tuition as well. But I totally agree. Like, the MCAT is so expensive. The application process to Canada is so expensive. I don't know. I don't know if the MCAT is really the best reflection of how smart people are too. So
yeah, I think
but as long as it's here,
crazy.
as long as it's
You
here,
have
we
to
just
deal with
kind of
it.
have to write it, right?
yeah,
But
no,
we're
I
also
agree.
going to be putting together some resources, so like Khan Academy for now, but some other free resources and stuff for you guys to check out. There's no reason that you shouldn't take the MCAT just because you can't afford the prep materials. So we're going to be working on reaching out to our networks and putting together materials and figuring that all out as a resource for you guys. Khan Academy, actually very interesting. As we mentioned before, they're moving to being paid. I know, Kylie, I think you know a little bit more about that than I do.
Yeah, so they're moving to being paid, as Advait said, end of September of 2021. And I don't know, I have some feelings about that. It was the only like free resource that was available for medical students. And Advait, do you know how much they're charging? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure at the moment. I don't think they've released any
Probably
information
not.
about the actual charging, because it's free until
Yeah.
2021, so there's still time.
Yeah, and I would like to know more of their thought process behind it. And I understand, like, just for making this podcast, like this Advait does most of the editing. Hailey does most of like the creation of the social medias and stuff. We all look at them, but Hailey does most of the managing. And then if you're ever getting an email, that's usually from me. But there's like, it's a lot of work. And like, I do understand that like making these Khan Academy like content resources, like it takes up a lot of time, and there's a lot of people working on it. But I think it was so great that they had that free resource, and it was like helping to overcome one of the many barriers to medicine for students. So I don't know. I'm a little sad that they're charging for it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess use it as long as it's available, or if you want to pay for it in the future, there's that option as well. But it is an amazing resource.
But you know, actually, just speaking of that, like Khan Academy's other videos, like they'll still be on YouTube. But like the thing about Khan Academy that was special for the MCAT is they had like their own passages for cars that you could do. We're gonna talk about strategy later, but I really pounded some cars into my head, so it was really nice to have extra passages that you would have available to you. So there is, I guess, you could still create your own study schedule based on like those old Khan Academy videos, but like that's so much work.
Yeah. That's life. Just gotta work.
I know, but it sucks that like if you pay that extra money, you get a schedule made for you versus like going
No, I know.
like,
I'm just playing.
Krebs cycle videos.
I saw a funny meme. It's like the real Krebs cycle is just 2 steps. Memorize the Krebs cycle, forget the Krebs cycle.
I saw that too.
Krebs
Yep.
cycle. Excuse me.
And obviously this year the MCAT is going to be quite different because of COVID. I think
Yeah.
Advait, you looked into that if you want to talk about it a bit.
Yeah, for sure. So like we know, because of COVID, they're going to have less examiners in the same room. They're not making the test online. They're still getting people to come in person to write it. But because they want less people at this testing center itself, they need more time slots or for more tests to be offered. Because of this, they actually are decreasing the test time from 7.5 hours to 5 hours and 45 minutes so that they can fit 3 tests into a single day. The start times for the tests are 6:30 a.m., which is ridiculous. Imagine like being at the test center, like it starts at 6:30 a.m. Whatever,
That
12:15 p.m. and
is
6 p.m.
crazy. Well, just like one thing, Advait, like with the 6:30 a.m. start time, I know you guys are going to talk about it, but like there's no testing center in Windsor. Like you guys have to go to the U.S., right?
And we can't go to the U.S. because COVID.
Oh my God. Yeah. So you need to come up here.
Like to
Oh my
Toronto
God.
area or something. Yeah.
So you have to like stay overnight. But then what do you like? What happens? Like, can people stay in hotels right now? Like, I am not super informed about this. I'm sorry, but
I have no idea.
damn, I
Yeah, I'm
feel
not sure
so
about
bad for
that.
you guys.
But yeah, they are reducing, like pretty much every section was 59 questions except for cars, which was 53 questions in the original MCAT. And now they're reducing it so that every section is going to be 48 questions. AAMC is saying that the scores are still going to be like the same. You're still going to be out of 528, like 132 each section. So there shouldn't be too much of a difference there. The big problem, however, is that the test is now 5 hours and 45 minutes, but there are no practice tests being offered that are 5 hours and 45 minutes. All the practice tests that are being offered are the original 7.5 hour practice tests. So if you're writing the MCAT this summer, I guess that's just something to take into consideration, that your practice test is not going to be what your real MCAT's actually going to be like. And yeah,
That's tricky.
that's rough. Yeah.
That's
But
really hard.
it's a shorter amount of time to get your scores back now, right?
Yeah, they're going to give back scores within 2 weeks. So what's so great about this is that it gives the opportunity to rewrite. Now, when you write the MCAT, I'm a firm believer of write it like you really mean it. You know, if you're not ready, don't write it. So I'm not really in the mindset of rewriting. But if during the actual test day you feel like you might have messed up or you don't feel confident about how the test went, then just know that you'll get your score back within 2 weeks, and then you could probably reschedule once again. And the last day for the test this year is September 28th, 2020. So just keep that in mind.
But you also have to keep in mind that you need to look up the deadlines for individual schools. So I think they are consistent across Ontario. But I applied to Dalhousie and I had to have my test written by August 10th to apply to Dalhousie because they run on a little of a different schedule. And then early acceptance programs in the United States would also probably require different deadlines. So it's just something to be aware of, that you should be looking up every school that you're interested in applying to make sure you're meeting all of those deadlines. Make yourself a little calendar of what is due and when.
Yeah, that's a really big one, just knowing what deadlines to actually apply for. And one more thing I wanted to add for COVID and MCAT is that AAMC has said that rescheduling is going to be free during this time. So up till September 28th, rescheduling your test will be free because a lot of people will have accommodation issues and stuff like that. So just keep
And if you're
that in
feeling
mind.
sick, don't go to your test.
Yeah.
Reschedule it.
Yeah, it's not worth, like, there's so many reasons why you shouldn't do it. The pandemic being one of them. But it's not worth it. If you're feeling sick, you're not going to write your best. Stay home, get rested. AEMC is letting you reschedule for free. Don't even risk it.
Also, I know this sounds completely crazy, but did you guys ever hear that, like, if you want to write with earplugs in, you should do all your practice tests with earplugs in to, like, get used to it?
I've heard that.
I heard that.
Okay, well, this year you have to wear masks at your testing center. So I know it sounds a little bit crazy and over the top, but you should write some of your practice full lengths with a mask on to get used to that.
Oh yeah, I agree. Especially like if you wear glasses or something.
Yeah. So just another thing to consider.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And maybe if you have contacts,
Yeah.
because at least your eyes won't fog up, but that can get really uncomfortable. I have contacts and right now my eyes are so dry.
And now the other big question that a lot of people ask after they're done is, should you rewrite your test?
I can give my opinion on that. I've rewritten the MCAT 2 times now and never again. So this is a controversial topic. With rewriting the MCAT, it depends where you want to go to school and where you're applying for school. So if you want to go to school in the US, don't rewrite your MCAT. Basically, they look at all of your scores, and if your scores aren't going up, if your scores aren't showing progression and they're not going up by like a large amount, then it doesn't look great on your application. That being said, I wanted to go to a Canadian medical school, and Canadian medical schools only look at your best score, which is so nice of them. So if you, for any reason, don't do well on your MCAT, then yeah, if your score is not good, rewrite it. I was privileged. I had the means to afford the MCAT and rewriting it 3 times. And I understand that I'm in a really lucky place for that. And I know for some people, like, that's not possible. But if you feel like you have the money to do it, then, and you want to go to a Canadian medical school, then by all means rewrite the MCAT. It is a case-by-case basis. So it depends. For me, my score, it wouldn't have reached any of the cutoffs, and it wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to go, so I had to rewrite it. Some people, like, there's one, I don't want to name names, but there's one medical school in Canada where you don't know what the cutoffs are going to be before you apply. So sometimes it isn't worth rewriting it. Like, if you're just off by 1 point, then it might just be worth it to apply and see what happens. While we were talking, there was like another opinion or another controversial topic that I thought of, and that is voiding your MCAT. This is something that you can read about all over the internet. My personal opinion on this is, yeah, that's terrifying. I would never want to avoid my test. Like, I just sat through this 8.5 hour or 7.5 hour test. I want something to show for it. And like, you never know what's going to happen, right? Because the MCAT scored like against other people who wrote that day, right? Or like other people who wrote that test. And like, if everyone else does really bad, like if everyone else finds it a really hard test, like you could end up doing really, really good. So I think that voiding, I don't know, like you've already written it, you've already paid for it. You don't get your money back if you void, and you don't get a score. Hailey,
I would say
the thing is, I've heard that you should only void if you have technical difficulties during the exam. But let me tell you, when you get to that void screen, it is going to be very tempting to click the void button, but don't do it.
Yeah, work through it.
I would say like, because we were talking about American schools, it actually is a strategy sometimes for American schools, because like Kylie was talking about rewriting your test multiple times can be seen negatively, especially if you're not improving. So if you're planning on applying to the States and you feel like you know for sure that this test went bad and you're not going to get the scores that you want, then you might want to consider voiding. But if you're applying to Canada, then yeah, there's no real reason to void. Yeah.
Yeah, no, don't void. Just get the
unless
score
you had
back.
technical difficulties, which I've heard of. I heard somebody knew somebody who had like a fire alarm go off halfway through and had to evacuate, and the test kept running. They didn't give them extra time.
Did they get a refund?
Ridiculous. I actually don't know. I feel like they should have, but yeah, they ended up voiding their test, which like I probably would have at that point as well.
You know, even with technical difficulties, like if it's nothing that big, like
yeah, you have to like weigh it.
You probably missed. Yeah, and like, okay, let's say you're thinking about applying, like McMaster only looks at cars. Like, let's say McMaster is your dream school. You have been scoring consistently, like, I'm going to say really extreme, like 132s in cars. Like, I don't know. If it went off during psych and Soj, I would still ask for my score back.
Some people who just, if you only want to go to McMaster, which I personally think is a good idea to apply widely. Like if you're in Ontario, apply to all the Ontario schools. But if you're really set on just going to Mac because it's a 3-year program or whatever, they only look at cars. So some people will go in and just click through all the other sections and not even study for them and only try for cars. So, I mean, yeah, it's all about what you are aiming for.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what we're aiming for then. We should discuss our specific MCAT experiences.
Yeah.
Anyone want to start?
I can start.
Okay.
So I wrote the MCAT the summer after my third year of undergraduate. I got a test prep company course that was self-guided. So basically what happened was they sent me all of the textbooks, and my strategy was to start with the content. So I started in December. I actually started the day after Christmas, which, like, how lame can you get, Hailey? But you know what? It's
That's
fine.
Boxing Day. Like, why aren't you
Um,
shopping?
I was
Yeah.
in Windsor, and all of my friends were like in Peterborough and Kingston and everywhere else. So like, what did I have to do?
But there's so much shopping in Windsor. You
I
could have gone
know.
to
I think I did
Detroit.
go shopping, and I
guess so.
started in the evening. But
Went shopping for MCAT books.
yeah.
Indigo.
But so I worked through all the content. So I had like a little schedule. On Mondays I did biology, Tuesday was biochem, Wednesday was general chem, Thursday was organic chem, Friday was math, and then I did a CARS passage every single night because CARS is something that you're only going to get through repetition. So I did CARS every single night, and I did that for my entire second semester of school, which ended in April. And then in April I started my self-guided learning with the test prep company online. So that was like, there was a big practice book to work through that went with certain videos and modules online. And then every Sunday I would take a full length test, and the program would like kind of analyze it and tell me what I needed to focus on and generate like a study plan for the week based on what I needed to focus on. And I continued doing CARS every single night. And then as I got closer to my exam, I would start doing passages, like practice passages throughout the day. So not just working through individual questions, but actually like section tests. I don't know why I keep going like this with my hands. I'm sorry if you're watching on YouTube and you have to watch me do this. But so I did that. That was probably like 3 months leading up to my exam. I wrote on August 10th. The weekend before my exam, I went to a Taylor Swift concert in Toronto, which I highly recommend. Really good use of my time. Yeah, and then I wrote in Ottawa because I was living in Peterborough at the time. So my dad actually came and got me from Peterborough because he's a sweetheart and drove me up to Ottawa. I was so burnt out. So that was my big thing. I would not recommend studying for that long. There was no reason that I needed to work through the content and the self-guided learning practice questions separately. That just extended it all out. Also, I don't think I needed to be studying during my second semester. I think that contributed a lot to my, because I was doing MCAT prep on top of my full course load. And I worked through undergraduate. So I had a part-time job that I was working. And it was just a lot. I would say that, and I don't know, like, I mean, there's an argument to be had for both sides, but I think that it would have been better for me to have just studied harder or like more focused, more intensely in like the last 4 months than extending it out to all 6 months. Overall, I've really enjoyed my test prep company. I think they are the only reason that I got the score I got. But that is the one thing that I take away from my experience. Who wants to go next?
I'll go second. So I guess I'll talk about my MCAT experience then. I started studying for the MCAT my summer after third year, similar to Hailey. And I was just coming fresh off of physiology and my metabolism courses, so I didn't have to relearn the Krebs cycle, which was amazing. But yeah, what I did was just grab a set of test company books. I didn't take the actual course, but I just grabbed a set of their books from my friend, and I went through everything as fast as I could. I don't really recommend doing this because this is how you burn out when you try to do everything as fast as you can. I finished going through all the books in about, I think it was like 3 to 4 weeks, like close to a month. And I was doing one practice test a week just to reinforce that I was actually learning. And even if I didn't know all the material, I was still like practicing how to read the passages and find important information. After my first month, I don't know, I kind of like slowed down a lot. I just kind of had fun with summer a little bit. Didn't study too much. I still reviewed a little bit every day and did a practice test once a week, but it wasn't as crazy studying as I was doing in my first month. And then in my last month, so I studied about like 3 months. And then in my last month, what I did was just went on board with all my practice questions and things like that. So I try to do all my section banks, my Q packs, UWorld questions, whatever practice tests I had left. And then, yeah, I wrote my MCAT at the end of August. The thing was, because I wrote my MCAT at the end of August, I actually applied to medical school without knowing my MCAT score. So that was fun. But everything worked out and we're here today. So yeah, not too bad.
My MCAT story is kind of accumulation over 3 years. So the first time that I decided to conquer the MCAT was after second year because I thought that I could get it out of the way and not have to think about it again. And the problem with that is that I didn't learn everything in school yet. And everyone who's asked me now, when should I write the MCAT? I've said, write it after third year. By the time you're done third year, like you've learned most of the content in school. And the other problem with the time I wrote it after second year was I didn't take it seriously enough. I didn't have anyone in my life who was writing the MCAT. I've had a pre-med like club, but I wasn't part of it. And I kind of was doing my own thing. I was doing something different than what most of the pre-meds in my school were doing. So I didn't really have anyone to like judge or base it off of. So with that, I wouldn't recommend after second year. I would definitely recommend writing after third year. After third year, I decided to do a prep company. And I didn't love the prep company, as I was saying before. And the prep company course that I decided to do was in class. I'm someone who I like change what I'm doing every single day. Like my brain goes in a million different directions at once. So I like having a different schedule every day. I didn't like following their schedule. And that's just what I wish I knew before. And if I could go back and change it, like I would just do something based on my schedule. But I think an online prep course or a prep course format similar to what Hailey did could be and would be extremely valuable. So that's something, if I were to go back and change, I would try out the online version as opposed to the in-class version. And like with that being said, like part of the in-class component was having online lectures in Psych and Soc, and I really, really enjoyed those. So I don't know, that's something I would do different there. That summer, I did pretty good on my MCAT, but again, I really struggled with chemistry and physics. I don't know why, like I couldn't get this section. It was so freaking frustrating every single time I wrote it. And I like even tried to have a tutor and do it with them, like my old tutor from high school. I don't know, it wasn't working. So we get to our third summer. Third summer, I used like every resource on the planet. I had a UWorld subscription. I had 3 different prep company books with me. I had the AAMC practice test, Khan Academy I was using. And one thing that I think really helped me is that towards the end, like CARS was always my best section. I was doing so good on CARS like practice tests, but then for whatever reason, my CARS scores were going down and I was having like a heart attack. I was like, no, this is the one section that I need to do well in, because all the Canadian medical schools, at least in Ontario, a lot of them like really value, well, I guess it's pretty much Western and Mac that really value like high CARS scores. But with that, something that I thought was kind of useful was, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, Jack Weston. If you Google Jack Weston, yeah, it's like daily CARS passages. And I was pounding out those CARS passages to the point that I was almost getting burnt out. So I don't suggest that. But if you can do exactly what Hailey was saying, the daily CARS passages, start with Jack Weston from when you start. Even if you don't have your strategy down pat yet, that is extremely valuable. The third summer, I did self-study. And honestly, like I was just thinking about this as Hailey and Advait were talking. A lot of the stuff I knew and learned did come from that course and that prep course during the second after while I was writing it the second time or attempting to write it the second time. Sorry, it's all getting confused in my head. But a lot of that information came from there. And so it was valuable. I just wish I didn't do the in-class version. And then my last little tip, you need to make yourself a really fire playlist on Spotify for while you're driving to the test center. I had one and literally I was in the car like screaming my shot from the Hamilton soundtrack. And I was like, I'm not throwing away my shot this time. I'm getting into medical school. And I did the exact same thing as Advait. I had written the MCAT without knowing what my score was. I applied to medical school without knowing what my score was. It all worked out. I hit the cutoff that I needed in chemistry and physics. I was at work that day and I cried. I was so happy. But yeah, my big tips from an MCAT rewriter, the Psych Soc book that you can find on the MCAT subreddit, so valuable. And honestly, if that's still up there and it's still floating around, even when Khan Academy, like you don't need to look at the Khan Academy videos with that. Just look at the book. That's a big tip. Jack Weston, Daily CARS Passages, definitely do that. After your third year, if you think you can do it after second year, go for it. No one's going to stop you, but I definitely recommend after third year. And take those days off and make sure you have a fire Spotify playlist.
Honestly, I'm just going to say something about what Kylie said. Like all three of us wrote it or didn't write it after second year, but I do have a lot of friends that did write it after second year, and it's definitely doable. But just know that you just don't have as much, like you'll have to learn more of the content yourself because you just haven't taken as many courses as a third year student. So it's definitely possible. I have a lot of friends that have succeeded on the MCAT. They got higher scores than me when they wrote after second year.
I think a lot of people out there are just smarter than the three of us.
Yeah, but just know that it's definitely like writing after second year is completely fine. You're just going to have to learn the content or spend more time learning the content, I guess.
But I also knew a couple people who wrote it after second year, but don't feel like I knew I wasn't going to write it after second year. I knew that it wouldn't work out for me and I needed that in-lecture component because like I said before, that's how I learn. And I also knew some people who were like, oh, I'm going to write after second year just as a practice run. Like I'm not even going to study. I'm going to write as a practice run. And that's a really expensive practice run.
Yeah.
So I think the better approach is to just like set up, because their idea was that they wanted to know what it felt like to be in the test, but just try to recreate test environment as much as you can at your home. So put a sign on your door saying like, don't disturb me, I'm writing my test. Put your earplugs in, put your glasses on if you wear glasses, like do what you have to do and sit through that entire exam like it's test day. And I think that's just as valuable as going to write it as a practice run and less expensive.
You know, and if you're going to replicate your test, like situation, also on the MCAT subreddit, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but like someone had posted the screen resolution for the screens that they usually use. Like people on this subreddit, like they have everything down to like
Crazy.
a T. But you know, they're not wrong. Like at the end of the day, like your eyes are starting to burn. The screen is a little bit blurry. Like if you can replicate that at home, do it. I recommend it.
Great. Is that everybody's tips? I think the last thing we want to do is answer some questions that you sent in to us. So let's get started with that. I think we have 6 questions to move through here, and we're going to be doing this every week. We're going to ask questions. So you're following us on the socials so that you can submit your questions.
Yeah, so I think most of these questions were submitted on Facebook and Instagram. So we'll put more things in the future. We'll put stories up or posts where you can just respond with your questions.
We just really want people to talk to us.
We just want people to talk to us.
We're lonely and we want to be friends with you.
Yeah, please message us.
Please. A little creepy. Okay, I'll start then. Question number 1, how much studying does it actually require to get a good score? Once again, like everything, this differs from person to person, but I think studying 3 to 4 months is a pretty good it's pretty good time to actually spend studying for the MCAT. I think if you do more than 4 months, you're kind of overstudying, because while there is a lot of content for the MCAT, I don't think it's I don't think studying more than 4 months is going to change your score that much. So keep it at 3 to 4 months of dedicated studying.
Next question. Is it better to study a year in advance? We kind of talked about this throughout the podcast, and Advait just said it as well. No, don't study a year in advance. I don't know how else to tell you that. You're going to get so burnt out. You're going to get so tired. Enjoy. University is supposed to be fun. Enjoy university. Go to class. Focus on your GPA. Your GPA is so
Go. I'm a big supporter of going to the clubs.
If you are legal drinking age and
Yes.
you are doing everything safe,
Yes.
do not drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive.
Exactly. It's a good stress buster. But with that, no, enjoy school. We're going to talk about this later, but your GPA is just as important as your MCAT. You don't need to do both. You don't need to do both at the same time. I'm getting tired if you couldn't tell. And so is Hailey. Yeah, but with that, no, you don't need to study a year in advance.
Okay, next question. Can it be written in Windsor? No. Most Windsor people actually write it in the States, but due to COVID, I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. So, no, you can't really write in Windsor. I think the closest place you can probably get is near Toronto. But once again, if you just go to AAMC's website and you schedule for a test, you'll have all the test centers and locations there.
Okay, next question. How to get better at cars? And this person said they're really terrible at reading the passages. So I'm going to share very briefly my strategy that I was taught by my test prep company because I think that it is a great strategy. But I think the key is that you need to choose a strategy and stick with it and practice, practice, practice with that strategy. It should be like drilled in your head by the time you get to your test. But so this is what I did. I started by flipping through all of the passages and I wrote down like the number of passages and just briefly glanced at them and decided based on the content how difficult it was going to be for me. So personally, if it was something about like politics, I am not good at that. So I would give that a sad face. And if it was something about like English or history, which I am a little bit better at, that would get a happy face. And then if it was anything else, it would get like a straight line face. And you start by doing the stuff that has happy faces that you're really good at because that kind of pumps you up. And you want to spend time doing things that you're probably going to get right. So then what you do is the passages are usually split into paragraphs. So you read a paragraph and then you write down a 1-sentence summary of what that paragraph was about. What was the big message of that paragraph? So by the end, you should have like 4 or 5, however many paragraphs, one line of what everything is about. Then you go and look at the question. You read the question, you think, okay, which one of my one-line paragraphs am I going to find this answer in? And then you would go back and read that paragraph and answer your question. I think this is a great tactic, A, because you're starting with what you're good at, which is good to pump you up, and that's what you want to spend your time on, like I said, but also because it breaks the passage down in your mind. And I think the thing about CARS passages is that they get a little bit overwhelming because it's content that you're not used to seeing. And then you kind of read it all and you're like, okay, what the heck is going on? So breaking it down in this way and kind of simplifying it for yourself, that helped me a lot. But again, just practice, practice, practice. If you want to pick up a strategy like that, or if you have another strategy, you should be practicing with your strategy every single time so that you've got it down pat by the time you come to test date. And then if you are struggling with a specific type of passage, you're going to want to try reading literature from that passage on your free time. So for me, I read a lot of political based stuff because I'm not good at that. And that kind of just helps you understand the content going on in those passages more as well, which can help you break it down into your 1-sentences, which can help you answer the questions.
Amazing. All right. So next question is, are MCAT Khan Academy videos alone sufficient for content review? We kind of touched upon this a little bit during the podcast. I would say, yeah, they're pretty comprehensive. But like what we were saying before, Khan Academy has the videos. They also have passages that you can practice with as well. But unfortunately, it is going to be a paid service starting in September 2021. We talked about our feelings on that. It is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, the MCAT videos, they should be sufficient for Khan Academy, for content review. But with that, I think like the best thing you can do is to get a set of those MCAT books, whether you can get like a used copy from someone, you can get, or if you can get a new one like Amazon or Indigo or something, I would definitely suggest that. They have all the content kind of laid out. And I think that having like the chapters, so being like, okay, this chapter I'm working on is reproduction. And then I can go to Khan Academy and watch the videos that complement this and also read everything to make sure I check off all those content boxes while I go through. That will be the most comprehensive and it'll also guide you through. So I think having those books, no matter who you buy them from, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to be a new edition, is definitely really important.
And then our last question is, which study, company, or program is actually worth paying for? Any that you would recommend? So we're not going to suggest specific companies on here just because everybody wants something different. And I mean, we're all different kinds of learners. So the best approach you can take is actually looking at what's available through each one and deciding what would be best for you. That being said, Kylie and I did talk a little bit about our experiences with different companies. So if you want to know more about that, you can DM us on our personal Instagrams, or you can just DM the Tachy Talks page on Instagram. That's at Tachy Talks. And just ask for one of us or both of us, and we'll let you know more about what those experiences were. And what is offered through different companies. So we are always on the Instagram. We are social media creatures, so you can message us at any time and we'll answer. And I think that's it. So speaking of social media, like we were saying, follow us on everything. Download our podcast on Spotify. can you follow people on Spotify? Like favorite us or whatever?
Yes, you
Yeah,
can.
you
You
can.
can follow us.
Yes, follow us on Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
And then smash the subscribe button.
down below. And all of the socials linked down below. But we're going to start putting up content on our YouTube soon that isn't just our podcast. So there's going to be a lot of variety on there. We're going to be all over social media. I know this is kind of a long podcast, longer than last week's for sure, but there is a lot to talk about when it comes to the MCAT.
And
So we
honestly,
really
this is
hope
like nothing compared to the MCAT. The MCAT's a long test, so you need a long podcast for it.
yeah, I mean, we should have live written a practice MCAT test. That would have
Don't
been the
put those
best way
words
to
in the
do
universe
it.
because Advait's going to be like, that's a great idea. Let's put that on Twitch. And I don't want to rewrite the MCAT.
Yo, listen, if you're down to donate to us
What
on
just
Twitch, I will
cried
do
for
it.
7.5 hours.
Oh my God. I thought I was done with... Anyways, I'm not going into that.
That's a great
But yeah.
idea. Okay, join us next week.
Yeah, so keep an eye on Instagram because we'll let you guys know what we do plan on talking about next week. And we hope you're enjoying your Thursday or whatever day you're listening to this on. And we hope you liked hanging out with us. And we hope you keep coming back because we bought these new microphones and we want to keep talking into them.
And happy belated Canada Day.
Woo!
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.